My mother-in-law forced my jobless sister-in-law to live in our cramped home, sparking chaos with her mess and entitlement, while my spineless husband refused to back me up. Furious and betrayed, I kicked her out and confronted the meddling, leaving my marriage teetering as new financial threats loom. Hey, I'm Chloe. I'm 32, and I'm at the end of my rope here. I've been married to my husband, Aiden, for 6 years. He's 29, super sweet most of the time, but man, does he have a spine made of jelly when it comes to his family. We've got a 4-year-old daughter, a little house we've been fixing up bit by bit, and what I thought was a pretty solid life. That is, until my mother-in-law decided she's the queen of my freaking castle and moved my sister-in-law, Grace, into our place without even asking me. So, picture this. It's a random Tuesday. I'm dragging myself home from work. Retail, nothing glamorous, just enough to keep us afloat while Aiden does his mechanic gig, and I'm already wiped. Our daughter's been at daycare all day, and I'm thinking about crashing on the couch with some leftovers. I walk in, and there's Grace, 25, sprawled out on my living room floor like she's auditioning for a reality show. She's got 3 duffel bags, a half-eaten bag of Doritos, and some beat-up sneakers I've never seen before scattered around. My kid's running circles around her, giggling, while Grace is blasting some TikTok dance video on her phone like she owns the place. I freeze. What's going on? I ask, trying to keep my voice level. Aiden's in the kitchen, avoiding eye contact, stirring something that smells like burnt spaghetti sauce. Grace looks up, grins like a Cheshire cat, and goes, "Oh hey, Chloe. Surprise. I'm crashing here for a bit. Mom said it's cool." Mom, meaning my mother-in-law. Not me, the person who actually lives here and pays the mortgage. I turn to Aiden, who's now pretending the pot is the most fascinating thing he's ever seen, and I say, "Babe, can we talk?" He mumbles something about dinner being ready soon, and I'm already feeling my blood pressure spike. Here's the kicker. No one told me. Not a text, not a call, not even a heads up from Aiden, who apparently knew about this for a whole day and didn't think to mention it. I drag him into the bedroom, shut the door, and yell, "What the hell is Grace doing here? With bags? Like she's moving in." He rubs the back of his neck, classic Aiden move when he's cornered, and says, "Mom called yesterday. Grace got kicked out of her apartment, and Mom didn't want her sleeping on her couch. She figured we've got the space." Space? I hiss. "We've got a 3-bedroom house, Aiden. One's ours, one's for our kid, and the third's my office/storage because we can't afford a bigger place. Where's Grace supposed to sleep? The bathtub." He shrugs, and says, "Mom thought the office could work. Grace doesn't need much." I'm floored. My mother-in-law didn't just overstep. She pole vaulted over every boundary I've ever tried to set. And Aiden, my husband, the guy who's supposed to have my back, just let it happen. I storm back out, and Grace is now raiding my fridge, pulling out the last of the chicken I'd planned to cook tomorrow. "Oh, sweet. You guys have real food," she says, like she's been living off ramen for a month. Spoiler, she probably has. That night, I barely sleep. Grace is crashing on an air mattress in my office, my tiny sanctuary where I keep my laptop, my half-finished crochet projects, and a shred of sanity. She's loud, too, snoring, scrolling her phone at full volume, laughing at memes until 2 a.m. I'm lying there next to Aiden, who's out cold like none of this is his problem, and I'm wondering how my life turned into a bad sitcom overnight. Let me back up a sec, because this isn't the first time my mother-in-law's pulled something like this. She's in her 60s, retired, and lives about 20 minutes away in this little condo she's obsessed with keeping spotless. She's got this thing where she thinks she's still in charge of Aiden and Grace, even though they're grown adults. Back when we got married, she tried to pick our venue, some tacky banquet hall she loved, because she didn't trust my taste. I put my foot down then, and she cried to Aiden about how I don't respect family. He spent a week moping until I caved and let her pick the flowers instead. Big mistake. It's been a slow slide into her thinking she can run our lives ever since. Like, 2 years ago, she showed up unannounced with a hideous plaid couch she couldn't bear to throw out, and guilt Aiden into taking it. It sat in our garage for months because it smelled like mothballs and regret, and I finally had to sneak it to the curb on trash day. She still brings it up at every holiday, all teary-eyed, like I personally insulted her ancestors. And don't get me started on the time she surprised us by signing our daughter up for some expensive dance class we couldn't afford, then got mad when I canceled it. Aiden never says no to her. He just nods and hopes I'll deal with the fallout. Grace, though, she's a whole other beast. She's the baby of the family, and it shows. She's got this loud, in-your-face energy, always talking over people, laughing too hard at her own jokes, and acting like the world owes her something. She's been bouncing between jobs and roommates since she dropped out of community college, and every time she crashes and burns, she runs back to mommy or Aiden. Last I heard, she was living with some guy she met on Tinder, but apparently that imploded, shocker, and now she's our problem. The next morning, I'm making coffee, trying to keep it together, when Grace stumbles out in one of Aiden's old t-shirts she must have dug out of the laundry. "Morning, fam," she chirps, grabbing my mug, off the counter and chugging it. I stare at her, and she goes, "Oh, were you using this? My bad, I'll make more." She doesn't. She just flops onto the couch and starts scrolling her phone again. Our daughter toddles over, all excited because Grace is fun, and I'm stuck wondering how long a bit is supposed to last. A week in, and it's chaos. Grace hasn't lifted a finger, dishes pile up, her crap's all over my office, and she's eaten half our groceries. I come home one day to find her finishing off the lasagna I'd made for Aiden's birthday dinner. "It was just sitting there," she says when I snap at her. "I didn't know it was special." I'm fuming, but Aiden pulls me aside and says, "She didn't mean it, Chloe. She's going through a rough patch." A rough patch? She's been rough patching her whole life, and now it's my burden? Money's another thing. We're not rich. Between daycare, the mortgage, and car repairs, we're stretched thin. I'd been squirreling away a little cash for a weekend trip, just the three of us, to get a break from the grind. But with Grace here, our grocery bills shot up. She's eating like she's training for the Olympics. Big portions, snacking all day, and she's got zero shame about it. I ask Aiden if she's pitching in, and he says, "She's broke right now. Mom said she'll figure it out soon." Soon. Right. Then there's our daughter. She's only 4, and she's picking up Grace's habits fast. Grace lets her stay up late watching YouTube on her phone, stuff I'd never let her see, like those loud prank videos, and now she's cranky all the time. Yesterday, she told me no when I asked her to pick up her toys, and I swear she got that sassy tone from Grace. I try talking to Grace about it, like, "Hey, can you stick to our rules with her?" She rolls her eyes and says, "Relax, Chloe, she's fine. You're so uptight." Uptight. In my own house. Aiden's no help. I've tried sitting him down, laying it all out, how I feel disrespected, how this is our home, not a halfway house for his sister. He just sighs and says, "I know, babe, but what am I supposed to do? Tell Mom no? She'll freak out." Yeah, and I'm freaking out now, Aiden. He keeps saying Grace will leave soon, but when I push him to define soon, he clams up. I'm starting to think he's fine with this because it keeps his mom off his back. 2 weeks in, I hit my limit. I come home, and Grace has friends over, 3 random loudmouths I've never met, drinking our beer and playing music so loud the neighbors text me to complain. My daughter's asleep on the couch, surrounded by empty cans, while Grace is laughing her head off in the kitchen. I lose it. I kick her friends out, and when she whines, "They're just chilling. Chloe, what's your deal?" I snap. "My deal is this is my house, Grace, not your personal flop house." She storms off to the office, slamming the door, and Aiden, who's been hiding in the garage, comes in and says, "You didn't have to yell at her." That's it. I grab my keys, take our daughter, and crash at my sister's place for the night. I need space to think. My sister's great. She's single, no kids, and her apartment's quiet. She listens to me vent over a glass of wine and says, "Chloe, your mother-in-law's a control freak, and Aiden's letting her walk all over you. Grace needs to go." I know she's right, but I feel stuck. I love Aiden, and we've built a life together, but this is tearing us apart. The next day, I go back home. Grace is gone. Apparently, she went to a friend's place after our fight, but her stuff's still here, so I know she's not out for good. Aiden's all apologetic, saying he'll talk to his mom, but I've heard that before. I call my mother-in-law myself, something I've avoided because she's a pro at twisting things. I say, calm as I can, "Look, I get Grace needs help, but she can't live here without us agreeing to it. This is our home." She gasps, all dramatic, and goes, "Chloe, I'm just trying to keep this family together. Grace has nowhere else. I bite my tongue and say, she's not my responsibility. Talk to Aiden if you want, but this stops now. She hangs up on me. Aiden's mad I went behind his back, but I'm done tiptoeing around. Grace comes back that night, acting like nothing happened, and I'm back to square one. I've tried setting rules, clean up, no guests, stick to kid-friendly stuff with our daughter, but she ignores them. Aiden's still waffling, and my mother-in-law's texting him nonstop, probably guilting him into keeping Grace here. I'm exhausted. I've been ranting about this to my sister, and she told me to check out Reddit for advice, said there's tons of people dealing with in-law drama there. I've been lurking on some threads, and it's wild how common this is, but I still don't know what to do. I could kick Grace out myself, but Aiden would flip, and I don't want to nuke our marriage. I could keep nagging him to grow a pair, but that's gotten me nowhere. Or I could just suck it up and wait for Grace to leave, whenever that is. So, here I am, spilling my guts. I feel like I'm losing my mind and my home over this. Am I the jerk here? Am I being unreasonable for wanting my own space back?
Update incoming.
Update. This is what's happened since then. So, it's been 3 months since I last vented about my mother-in-law dropping Grace on our doorstep like an unwanted package, and holy crap, things have gone off the rails. I figured I'd give you all an update because, well, I'm still reeling, and I need to get this off my chest. After that night, I crashed at my sister's place. I came back home ready to lay down the law. I told Aiden flat out, Grace has to go, or we're headed for bigger problems. He looked like a kicked puppy, but for once, he didn't argue. Maybe it was the fact I'd walked out with our daughter, or maybe he finally saw how serious I was. Either way, he promised he'd talk to his mom and get Grace out. I wasn't holding my breath, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. The next day, he actually called his mom, on speaker, so I could hear. I'll give him credit. He tried. Mom, Chloe's not okay with this, he said. Grace can't stay here forever. We need our space. I was nodding along, feeling a flicker of hope, until she cut him off with this long, dramatic sob story about how Grace is fragile and needs family right now. She even threw in a guilt trip about how she raised him better than to abandon his sister. Aiden started crumbling. I could see it in his eyes, but I grabbed the phone and said, Look, this isn't about abandoning anyone. This is my home, and I get a say. Grace has a week to figure it out. She hung up on me again, but I didn't care. Line drawn. Grace, of course, didn't take it well. She overheard the whole thing and stormed out of the office, yelling, Fine, I'll leave. I didn't want to be here anyway. She packed her bags. Well, half-packed them, leaving a mess of clothes and random junk behind, and peeled out in her beat-up Honda. I thought that was it. Problem solved, right? Nope. Aiden was a wreck after that. He barely talked to me for days, just moped around like I'd kicked his dog. I tried asking what was wrong, and he finally blurted out, Mom's pissed, Grace is pissed, and I feel like the bad guy. I wanted to shake him and scream, What about me? But I held it together and said, You're not the bad guy for standing up for us. This is our family too. He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't convinced. That's when I realized this wasn't just about Grace. It was about him never learning to cut the cord from his mom. It's been a slow burn in our marriage, and this whole mess just lit the fuse. For a couple weeks, it was quiet. Grace was gone, my office was mine again, and our daughter stopped throwing tantrums about missing Auntie Grace. I scrubbed the house top to bottom, got rid of the Dorito crumbs and stale beer smell, and started feeling like myself again. Aiden was still sulky, but he came around, cooked dinner one night, even apologized for not stepping up sooner. I thought we were turning a corner. Then my mother-in-law struck back. She showed up unannounced one Saturday morning with this big, fake smile, carrying a casserole dish like it was a peace offering. Our daughter ran to hug her, and I'm stuck there, coffee in hand, wondering what fresh hell this is. She sits down, all casual, and says, I've been thinking, Chloe. Grace needs a stable place, and I'm moving into assisted living soon. Bad hips, you know. So I figured she could take my condo. But she needs help with rent until she's on her feet. You and Aiden could pitch in, right? I almost choked. She wasn't just meddling now. She was trying to lock us into funding Grace's life. Aiden's sitting there, nodding like a bobblehead, and I'm like, hold up. We're barely keeping up with our own bills. Grace is 25. She can get a job. My mother-in-law's smile dropped, and she snapped, Family helps family, Chloe. I didn't think you'd be so selfish. Selfish? After she turned my house into a circus? I told her flat out, we're not her ATM. She's an adult. Figure it out. She stormed off, leaving the casserole behind. Some dry, sad tuna thing I tossed straight in the trash. Aiden didn't say much after that, but I could tell he was torn. He loves his mom, and she's got him wrapped around her finger with that guilt crap. I started wondering if I'd married a mama's boy who'd never put me first. It's not like he's a bad guy. He's great with our kid, fixes stuff around the house, makes me laugh. But this family dynamic is suffocating me. Then came the new problem, and it's a doozy. About a month ago, Grace popped back into the picture. Not at our house, thank God, but close enough to cause trouble. Turns out she's been crashing with some shady friends in a sketchy part of town, and she got herself into a mess. She called Aiden one night, bawling, saying she owed money to some guy for stuff she wouldn't explain. She wouldn't say how much, just that it was serious, and she needed help or she'd be in deep crap. Aiden freaked out, pacing the kitchen, telling me. She sounded scared, Chloe. What if she's in danger? I'm not heartless. I get it. She's his sister, but I smell the scam a mile away. She's playing you, I said. She's broke. She knows you're soft, and she's betting you'll bail her out. He got mad, really mad, which is rare for him, and yelled, You don't get it. She's family. I shot back. Yeah, and we're your family too. Why is it always us cleaning up her messes? It turned into this huge fight, the kind where you say stuff you can't take back. He slept on the couch that night, and I cried in the bathroom so our daughter wouldn't hear. The next day, he went behind my back and sent Grace money, $500, which we absolutely didn't have. I found out because I check our bank app religiously since the grocery bill fiasco. I confronted him, and he admitted it, head in his hands, saying, I couldn't let her get hurt, Chloe. I'll pick up extra shifts to cover it. Extra shifts? He's already beat from work, and now he's stretching himself thinner for Grace. I was livid, but more than that, I was hurt. It felt like he chose her over us, over me, over our kid, over the life we're scraping by to build. Since then, things have been icy. We're civil for our daughter's sake. Dinners are quiet. We trade off bedtime stories, but the trust is cracked. He's working late all the time now, and I'm stuck home, stewing. Grace hasn't called again, but I know she's out there, probably plotting her next sob story. My mother-in-law's been radio silent, which is almost worse, like she's waiting to swoop in with another solution I'll hate. The new problem's got me spiraling. Aiden's talking about taking out a loan to help Grace get stable, and I'm terrified he'll do it without telling me. He brought it up last week, all casual like it's no big deal, saying, if we get her set up, she'll leave us alone for good. I don't buy it. Grace doesn't strike me as the stable type, and I'm not about to tank our finances for her. I told him no way, but he got this stubborn look, and now I'm paranoid he's sneaking around with bank paperwork. Our marriage is hanging by a thread, and I'm scared one more pull, like him going behind my back again, will snap it. I've been venting to my sister, and she keeps pushing me to check Reddit again. Says people there have been through this kind of family mess and might have advice. I'm torn. Part of me wants to drag Aiden to counseling, force him to see how his mom and Grace are poison to us. Part of me wants to pack a bag and take our daughter somewhere he can't find us until he figures out where his loyalty lies. And part of me just wants to scream into the void and hope someone hears me. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Grace is gone but still screwing us over. Aiden's stuck in the middle, and I'm fighting to keep my family from falling apart. Am I out of line for putting my foot down, or am I just delaying the inevitable?
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our daily updates.